Of the 15 schools that have been built, can you tell us a success story?
Oh, this will sound kind of a cliche, but all 15 are miracles. All of them. All of them are built in the middle of nowhere. I don't want to build schools in towns and cities. Pathetically, there's some kind of resources there. There is none in the countryside. Most of the children in the countryside will have no schooling. So the best investment I thought we could make is raise funds, build a school in the country, and at least these children will get an opportunity to read and write, if nothing else. And so each one is a miracle. Each one is something that you go into, and there might be an elementary school already there, and the youngsters, the babies, and they have nowhere to go. So you'll build them a middle school so they can at least go up. Go to another village and they have a middle school, and there's nowhere for the 14-year-olds to go when they graduate. If they do, there's nowhere for them to go. So we kind of build the next level to whatever exists. And to give you some idea of the value of that, we once were visiting a village that was 50 miles into the African bush. And communication there are incredible. Some people have no phones, no television, nothing, but somehow they communicate. By the time we left the main road to go to that village, we were stopped 3 times with different villages coming out, blocking the road, asking us to build schools. We get about 60 requests to build a school every day. We get 4,000 emails a month. And each one is worse than the other in the sense of the need. So when you say what's the success story, I think the success story is that it's happening. The success story is that we now have the first graduates from secondary school going on to university. My famous dictate to them is that if I don't see doctors and engineers for this village, I know where you live, I will come and get you. And even though it's a joke, it's kind of meant. In most of the schools, we don't build boarding schools because it's twice as much, and there's extra stuff like water, kitchens, and stuff like that. So it's a kind of question of economics. Do I build a school or do I build a boarding school? But I must build twice. I spend twice as much money. So what they have done, they've turned their own school into a building school. So during the day, all the desks, and at night, all the desks are thrown out, and all the beds are put on the floor. So you'll have 80 girls sleeping here, and you'll have 50 boys sleeping there. They might go home for the weekend, but now because they have electricity and computers, they watch videos, things that they've never seen before. Some of them are on the internet. Some of them, we take the printer and they print for local businesses, and some of them make $100 a month. $100 a month is roughly $1,200 a year. That's twice the average salary of people who work in Africa. So in a sense, the instinct is there. We used to teach the teachers how to use a computer, and then the teacher would teach the kids. We've now got rid of the teachers. We teach the kids directly because they're faster and smarter. And some of them have never seen or touched a computer. Within 2 days, it's purely instinct. So I measure the loss of how many Steve Jobs have we lost? How many Bill Gates have we lost? How many engineers have we lost, and with so many roads and buildings not built? It's a pessimistic view in one sense by measuring the loss. But unfortunately, the successes are so few, and the mountains of misery that have happened over the centuries and the recent ages. But it's happy. I mean, one child is a miracle. One graduate is a miracle.
Well, what countries do you currently have schools in, and how were those particular sites selected within those countries?
Well, we started off in Kenya. The reason why we started off in Kenya was because, again, we wanted to get experience. And Kenya we found very politically stable, economically stable. Now, obviously, things are relative. Still very poor, of course. And the need for education in Kenya was hugely demanding. I think Kenya and South Africa are probably the 2 advanced countries within Africa. So we need to gain experience. We're currently thinking of contracting to build a school in Madagascar. We're built a school in Tanzania. We're currently gearing up to do one in Uganda. We're currently doing one in Malawi. So, and we've built something like 15 schools or thereabout. And the first 2 schools we built were built on pure emotion. Poor kids, poor community, poor families, my God, they need education. We then realized, again, it's experience, that poverty is not the issue, that's given. So village A and village B and village C, they all need schools. So how do I say village C is more poor than village B or whatever? So we learned very quickly that the best investment or return for investment is to look at the community itself. How do they value education? What are their organizational skills? Will the community support the school? And how will all that investment be managed? So in a sense, the kids become a secondary thought in that decision because they all need it. So it's not a question of kids, kids, kids. It's a question is, we got 3 choices. Which village will manage that school better? Who has the most experience? Who has the better potential to lead that school? We now base the decisions on that. So the emotional side of that decision is diminished, but it's a reservoir that we make all our decisions on. But we try to hide it because otherwise you'll be making the wrong decisions if it's purely based on emotion. We have to get return on investment from people who give us money to build schools that are successful.
And how do you measure that return on investment?
We measure that return on investment by the school being full of children. We joke, but it's dead serious. Every school we built is too small before we build it because there are so many kids. Well, we've had to intervene with disputes. We recommend there should be not more than 40 children per classroom. We've had to intervene with arguments between parents who want to put 80 kids into a classroom. Because it's desperation, it's not anything else. It's purely that my kid hasn't gone in, so therefore there's no education, so therefore there's no future. It's a mathematical equation, or it's a logical thing. So the 40 kids who go into the classroom A and classroom B and so on, these are the privileged kids in that sense of the word. So we've had to intervene on a number of occasions and kind of teachers fight. They don't want to teach in other schools. And we've had to sit down with a bunch of teachers saying, guys, you'll get picked on your merits. The tradition is the headmaster is appointed by the government, and then the headmaster hires the local teachers. So the team becomes kind of one. And it's based on merit, hopefully. I see applications from teachers on a weekly basis. Please, I heard you open a new school in such and such a place. Can I join it? It's a desperation on the teachers as well, because the conditions that they teach on are horrific, is the only way that I can describe it. There's no toilets, there's no lights. Sometimes they sleep on the floor. Sometimes they get paid. Sometimes they don't. An average salary of a teacher would be $1,000, maybe $1,200 a year. A year, that's not a month. So while the potential students are desperate to try and get, the teachers are equally desperate, because all of a sudden they have the capacity to teach in good conditions, they have the capacity to use computers, they have the capacity to actually teach in an environment that's physically and emotionally, intellectually conducive to learning.